Greetings, customizers. Welcome to the next adventure at Talking Hands Customs. To all my subscribers, thank you very much. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the channel. We are going to make a vehicle for a team that has no vehicles. And really, this team is kind of interesting because there was only ever one, but if we all got one, then there was an army. And I'm talking about Steel Brigade. So, my reference here is going to be the guidebook here. And for those of you unfamiliar with Steel Brigade, it was a mail-away thing. You could make your own file card. It would come back printed off, and you'd have this own G.I. Joe. And the whole point was to be anonymous, so you could make them whatever you wanted to, and they could be experts in whatever you wanted. They could be a pilot, they could be a tank driver, whatever. It went from 1987 to 1994, and there are actually 5 different variants of them. This one down here being the most ultra rare. We're not going to use that scheme because as ultra rare as it might be, it's ultra god-awful. So we're going to look at these ones up here. The reason why there's 4 of them is because there are slight variations. They use various parts from Duke, Airborne, Scrap Iron, Gung Ho, Cobra Soldier, etc. The main focus of this is the scheme. And while Steel Brigade has gotten a couple of vehicles in the past very sporadically and mostly from a collector standpoint, I don't think that they really nailed it anyway. So while we're going to teach you how to take a character's colors and put it on a vehicle, we're going to start off with a character or characters that should have had their own team vehicles anyway, in my honest opinion. So we're going to start with Steel Brigade. Here's the deal. When you're applying figure colors on a vehicle, it's all about color volume balance. What that means is you want to get the proportions of tan compared to green compared to blue, etc. roughly the same on the vehicle as they are on the figure. The reason why that is that when you say, oh yeah, I used, let's say, Duke's colors on this Vamp Jeep, for example, if you mismatch the colors, the idea gets kind of lost. Like if you don't balance them correctly through volume, then it gets kind of lost. So it's not a matter of what's painted, what color, it's a matter of the amount of that color in each figure. So here we've got some tan, some olive drab, some blue, some silver color, and some black. And the accessories, for the most part, in this case the weapons, are dark gray, and the backpacks seem to have subtle variations with them, and like I said, we're not even going to talk about this nasty thing down here. So, the next lesson is to not think about a color with the name that pops into your mind. I know that sounds really weird, but the whole thing is that if we all look at his flak vest, for lack of a better term, we're all going to say that that's olive drab, and it may not be. So if you're looking for a color to match, don't just say I need an olive drab, because you'll get olive drab from the hobby store or wherever, and it won't be the right color. So this is when it comes into, okay, that's a brown green, or you can say it's an army green. Bring your reference with you, print it off, show it on your phone, whatever you got. If you've got a book like this, then fantastic. That blue is relatively straightforward, but it's a very pastel-y or powdery blue. It's a light blue. This tan may not be called tan at all. And the good thing is that these photos were all taken supposedly by the same person under the same conditions. And there's variations in them, right? Because the plastic fades or it gets sun bleached or whatever you want to call it. So you have some artistic leeway when we do this, which is fantastic. A little bit of leeway makes things a little bit easier for us. So here's what I'm going to show you. And I started off with about 12 different colors, all total, in trying to nail down this scheme. So now I'm going to show you how I did that with the final choices here. So I have 2 colors here for the green. One is a dark green. It's Model Master acrylic. Loads of companies make this. The federal standard number is FS34079. Okay, that's FS34079. It's a standard color used by the Air Force, especially back in the Vietnam era. And lots of companies make it. So it doesn't have to be Model Master acrylic, because if you remember, this stuff is discontinued. The other color that came close was another Vallejo color, Model Color Panzer series, and it's called Brown Violet. But see, to all of us, we would say that's olive drab, but it's called Brown Violet. Because why not? So in holding these colors together, you can see that while they may seem similar, well, they're similar, but they have different names. One's called Brown Violet, one's called Dark Green, but most of us might think dark green is maybe the color down here on this guy's vest. So don't let the name of the color that you think it is or that's on the bottle dissuade you from using it. You're matching the tone or the value of the color, okay? So between these two, all I do is I hold them up to the vest and see which one looks good. I know that sounds rather simplistic, but that's what it needs to be. And in doing so, keeping in mind that this is a shiny glass jar and this is a matte, clear, or mostly clear plastic squeeze tube. And when you hold them together, the color that actually does it the best, at least right now in my estimation, is the brown violet. So that's what we're going to start with for that, is the brown violet. So there's your one color done. The silver or steel color we won't talk about, but don't just say I'm looking for steel color, because some steels are made to look a little bit more oily steel or darker steel than, let's say, something like aluminum. So I'll show you the color I'm going to use for that later, but just keep that in mind. Next, we have the blue on the sleeves. I've got this one here. It's Vallejo Model Air Russian Air Force Gray number 7. I know that's a mouthful, but it should be easy to find. And when I compare it to the blue arms here, I am quite good. There is some variation. The reason being is that when you look at the photos up close, not all of these are the same color. So if you only have a photo of one, or you pick one photo, stick with that one photo. If you have troubles finding that exact color and you don't want to mix, then use another photo, right? Because if you can get something that's a little bit more faded, that'll kind of lock it in your mind as, okay, you know what, it's acceptable, it's good enough. So the blue I'm using is that one. For the pants, we all want to say that's tan, right? It's a natural thing, it's tan. Sure, tan is part of the brown or yellow color family, mostly brown. So in this case, after much debate, I was looking at two colors. I used this one on a previous custom. It's called Israeli Armor Sand Gray. It's basically a gray brown. And it looked very sharp. However, because I got other colors since then, I wanted to see if I could find something better. And what I did find was Vallejo Model Air's light brown. And holding it up to the pants there, doing a color check, I think it looks fantastic. It has just that little bit of that yellow to it. It's a warmer tone, and I think it'll match the pants nicely. Because again, even looking here, when you look at these two figures down here compared to especially this one up here, the pants are a different shade. So, and it's kind of, those two are kind of similar and these two are kind of similar. So because the figure had variations throughout its life cycle, from 87 to 94, we have some options. So there's my three main colors. The other way I check is I hold them all together like this, and I look to see if the contrast between the colors, if the color relationship is the same. So you can see that the tan and the green color look a certain way together. Does that match here? And in my opinion, it does. Same thing with the blue. How does the blue look with the green? Blue look with the green, there we go. And to me, the relationship between those two colors looks the same as it does here. So it's just kind of, if you hold the colors up together, does that give you the same look as the colors on the figure down here? Keeping in mind the figure's gloss and these are flat right now. But overall, if you get that same balance between the figure and the colors in your jars, you're good to go. So these are the colors I'm using. Now, without further ado, what are we going to do with the vehicle? Well, oh, do I have one for you. We're going to be doing the Vamp Mark II, and I've already got it disassembled because I'm enthusiastic. So, all the parts are broken down. I've done my pre-visualization, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to jump to that right now. So let's take a peek, and I'll show you what I came up with. Okay, so pre-visualization, we haven't done this in a while, so for those of you who have seen this for the first time, all you do is you take a photograph of the toy, or a drawing of the toy from online, slap it up on your basic photo editor, and mess around with colors. What this helps you do is define what your project's going to look like. You might have the idea, but the execution can sometimes be difficult without seeing the colors first. So in this case, we talked about balancing figure colors onto a vehicle, and what I did was something a little bit more. I started off bold, in which case I took tan because it's the largest piece on the Vamp, right? Is the bottom of the hull there, the chassis, and I made that the most bold color, which is the tan on the waist down for Steel Brigade. But as you can see here, it actually doesn't really work because by making the other color that olive drab, it's too much olive drab and not enough tan. So we're actually messing with the balance of colors. So watch this. And then of course, these colors here, I'd leave the missiles their normal color. The launcher would be steel colored, and gas cans and whatever, depending on the version I was using, was going to be something else. So then I switched it just over to a Stinger for fun. This is where I started to nail down my overall color scheme. So I liked having the blue canvas parts, or the canvas parts blue. The tan up top looked way better and way different than anything else. The olive drab bottom is really what makes this stand out, in that most Vamp or Stinger vehicles have a gray, dark gray, whatever you want to call it, chassis to them. So by having the whole thing olive drab really makes it pop and makes it stand out on your shelf as well. And then I moved the steel color down to the hubs for now. Again, if you've never seen this process before, you don't get extra points for staying inside the lines. It's just to show you color balance and volume and if things will work. You don't even have to have the shades match what you're going to put on there exactly. As long as the overall idea matches, you're good to go. In this case, it is a Stinger. So the launcher was going to be black and the missiles are going to be gray. And in fact, if I go back and do a Steel Brigade Stinger, I'll probably use that exact setup or something similar. Then I came up with this. It's like, okay, let's go back to the Vamp Mark II. I didn't like the all steel stuff because, again, in looking for that color balance, the colors need to be in the quote-unquote the right place. And what that means is that when you look at it, you'll sit there and go, ah, that's it. If it seems a little off, chances are it is. So trust your instincts on that one. And at the end of the day, it is art, so do what you like. But you'll see something that just clicks. And even if you get the 95% solution, you flop around one color or another, maybe that's what gets you the 100% solution. So in this case, I went back to the Vamp Mark II. I made the launcher olive drab and black, just to get more black on there, given the volume of black on the figure, the gloves, the knee pads, the boots, etc., the visor. There wasn't enough in previous iterations, so I kind of went, yeah, okay, I think that should be about it. And then, well, from there, I tried one more variation just to be sure. Hey, what if we were bold and made the bottom black? Because it is a large color by volume on the scheme. And I made the whole launcher light blue and the tarp rolled up on front, the light blue. And I just thought it was too much. And then these would stay that same color, that steel color. Not bad looking, but I wasn't too settled on it. So I ended up going back to, and I've saved all of these, so they're all going to stay, right? But I went back to that. I like the fact that the doors and canvas were blue. That was really what sold me on it. The olive drab top here could also work. But then you have this huge light blue launcher. It's another variation on a theme, right? Either one of these answers is technically correct. It all depends on what your style is and what your desire is. So in this case, I preferred the previous iteration with the olive drab launcher. So now that we've discovered what we're going to stick with, which is this overall idea right here, let's get back to the custom. And there you go, back at the table. So with the colors laid out the way they are, I'll show you on the vehicle itself how that's going to work, right? Because the whole name of the game for putting a character's colors on a vehicle is the balance of the colors. And representation, right? You can make that choice if it comes down to it, that you can eliminate a color. Sometimes you can eliminate black because it's just the boots or something like that. You can eliminate, if there's an even number of colors and it looks weird, you can get rid of that even numbered color to leave an odd numbered color left. We talked about that, how the eye makes odd numbered things look more natural. But in this case, when we make this whole chunk down here olive drab, it may seem like a lot, and tan is the more dominant color because of the waist and the legs, but you're not going to see the bottom, so that's already out of the way. Then when you look at the cockpit, yeah, you'll see some of that. It's also going to be closed in with doors, which is fine. You'll still get light in there, so you'll see that olive drab. This whole bit back here is going to be completely covered up, so that's gone. Underneath the engine here is going to be all gone. So when you put this as a light tan on top, you are going to get balanced between the tan and the olive drab. The reason why I put the tan on top is just it's different. It's just different, and I think that the way the tan is going to relate to the blue and everything is going to be better than having the olive drab up here and the tan down there. In my estimate, the tan is the dominant color, with about equal parts of blue and olive drab, and that's going to come out later because with the blue being all of these canvas sections, that will be a large stripe of blue. It won't be broken up into little parts all over the vehicle, but it'll be all gathered together, which will increase its visual impact and make it look like it's more than it is. It'll make sense once we start getting the color on there. And yeah, so I've broken everything apart. I don't have any missiles for this, so I did disassemble the rocket launcher completely because I will be painting the inside. Once you get missiles in there, or if you don't care to, at least get paint kind of around the outside or towards the end of it on the inside there. So maybe down into there, about that. So just hit it with your spray brush or whatever you got, your paint brush in there, just to continue the illusion. Because if you don't paint the inside, you'll see a color that's not part of the scheme, and it could screw things up and break the illusion. We're trying to make this seem like a Hasbro release, a Steel Brigade vamp. And also in the color breakdown, I don't know if you noticed or not, but you can actually remove the tarp that's folded up on the front of a vamp Jeep. When you're placing your silver bits, I recommend using a little bit of real world thought process on this, and that this tarp would not be silver. It would be a canvas color like the tan. Could be olive drab, could be black, but anything but the metal color. We're trying to make metal parts, metal colors here. At the end of the day, like anything else, choose what you want to do. Absolutely, right? If you want to make the tarp metal, go for it. But it may be one of those points that when you're done and you look at it and go, something's just off, it's quite possibly that's the problem. So we're off to the races, so let's get this thing primed up and we'll carry on. And by primed, I mean I put all the colors on. I got excited, right? Nothing magical here. Same techniques we've talked about before. It was straight solid pieces and colors applied, but we'll talk about them. So it's one thing to make a vehicle part of Tiger Force or Night Force or Python Patrol, etc. It's another to make it look like an action figure. Steel Brigade's a little bit unique in that the name really doesn't do justice to the color scheme being used. And we've talked about how once we start deconstructing things, it doesn't necessarily ruin the magic. It just helps you understand what you need to do in order to accomplish your goal. In this case, I'm making a Steel Brigade Jeep. So the trick with this is that the volume of color that is on the action figure needs to closely resemble the volumes of color on the vehicle. And that may not always be the case. You may have to employ some slight visual trickery to do that. And the perfect example is on the Vamp Jeep. This is the color of the flak vest. It's not the biggest chunk of plastic on the action figure, but it is on the vehicle. And the whole thing is this olive drab color, the brown violet. It's been clear coated with Mission Model Semi-Gloss Clear. The second largest piece is really one of the largest pieces of color on the Steel Brigade figure, and that's the tan color of the legs and the waist. But in this case, because on the figure the tan out volumes the flak vest color, once I put the shell on the chassis, a lot of that olive drab disappears. So yes, you could argue, well, when you flip it upside down, but nobody puts a Jeep, like it has more color, more olive drab there, but nobody puts this on their shelf upside down, like on the side or whatever. It's crazy. But when you sit it like this, what you do see are the fenders on the side, the sides of the chassis, and inside the cockpit. What further helps it is once you start applying the other pieces. So we have our blue canvas here for the roof and doors. I elected to make the base of the rocket launcher the same color as the upper hulls. That also helps push the tan up. And then I countered it with making the rocket launcher itself the same color as the chassis. But before we get back into reassembly, I want to talk about the upper hull for a sec. I have picked out some details in black. So we start off back here with the grills, or whatever you want to call them, on either side of the turret. Those are picked out in black to make a nice accent, strong as a black color, so I wanted to use it sparingly, even though it does exist in large volume on the action figure. You have to find that balance, and quite honestly, that's where the pre-visualization process again pays dividends in something like this, where you look at a vehicle and color certain things, because stronger colors have a stronger impact visually than lighter colors or weaker colors do. So do you need to match percentage-wise what like the color translation from figure to vehicle? The answer is no. The question is, can you achieve that same visual balance? And I know these seem like a lot of kind of loosey-goosey terms, but honestly, that's the way it is. It's an art form, so you have to balance it through pre-visualization, and once you start realizing the reality of your custom by applying the paint, you might have to change your plan, and that's just the way it is. And don't limit yourself in presuming what that change might have to be, because you might surprise yourself. I surprised myself with this project. And with the upper hull, the black portions are, well, kind of surprising. So what I did is I picked out the canvas roll in black, and I picked out the dashboard in black. So while normally on Vamp Jeeps and Stinger Jeeps, the dashboard matches the color of the chassis, but I actually decided to break it up. One, to create a little bit of visual interest, and two, to not necessarily fall into the same pattern as previous Vamps and Stingers. And that was just a singular choice I made. I could have made this olive drab, but I just wanted to kind of break it up. So while we're trying to mimic the Hasbro aesthetic in this case, we're not necessarily beholden to it. There's nothing saying you can't make a choice that's outside the box. In some cases it pays off, and I think it certainly worked in this case. Because there's so much black on the action figure, where do you put it on the vehicle? I contemplated making the chassis black, but it was too much. And quite frankly, with Tiger Force and Night Force and all that stuff, there's a lot of black used, and this will also help create some visual interest on in my display case by being different than everything else. It also falls in line color-wise with the Steel Brigade Skyhawk I've also done. I had to glue in the roll bar here because, or the frame, whatever you want to call it, because the history behind this piece is it was stepped on by somebody's mom, and the wheels broke and the frame popped out and everything else. The frame itself was not broken, but I did decide to secure it with super glue because it wasn't sitting as tight as it originally did. So that's how we picked that out. The other thing I did was the light bar that's up in front, that's also in black. And while that may seem random, it really isn't, because it follows along the same pattern with the balanced distribution of color. And that's front, middle, rear. And I like the effect that plays out. So with that, we'll talk about the chassis here. Because it was stepped on, two of the tires, or the wheels, broke off the metal bar here. So what I had to do was reconstruct that tubular piece. In fact, you can see here again, it is cracked there, and I'm not too worried about that. I might actually secure it with maybe a little bit of super glue or Gorilla Glue. But what I did is I took some styrene tube like we did in previous projects, and all I did was make a new tube on there to hold the tire straight on the pin. In fact, mine actually turned out to be straighter than the factory release, so hooray! Anyway, so now the wheels have been reconstructed. They were painted in silver, and this is the part I picked out in silver. I still have to clean up the perimeter of the hub a bit, but that was the part I made silver. And while the Steel Brigade action figure's whole helmet is silver, when you look at it volume-wise, it's actually not that much, which is what is interesting about Steel Brigade, because the logo for Steel Brigade is a picture of the helmet. The action figure, which was so wildly popular, had a cool helmet on it, but it's only the helmet that's painted silver. I mean, yes, there's some belt buckles and stuff, but the amount of silver in that color palette is minimal. And what I used for this was Tamiya's chrome silver. It's not chrome like Molotov chrome, there's no mirror finish, but it does give you a nice silver that doesn't look too flat or too hollow. It has some nice depth to that color. And quite honestly matches nicely with the rest of the G.I. Joe aesthetic. So with that, the other big color was blue, right? The two sleeves are blue, but it stands out because it's a bright color against olive drab and tan. So what I decided to do with that is make the canvas parts blue. There were other iterations, but like I showed you in the pre-visualization, some things just don't look right. And you could have a different opinion. This is not the be-all, end-all. If you're going to do a Steel Brigade, you must follow this process. This is just to show you my answer to that question. So other than that, there was really no other issue. It becomes a standard custom. So before you reassemble, while you're painting, don't be afraid to stop and go, am I satisfied? Am I doing it right? Again, every custom is measured through success by if you're happy with the product or not. And in this case, I am very much happy with it. I don't have the missiles, but if I did, I would leave them the original dark gray because the Steel Brigade's weapon was dark gray or whatever. So that's how I would match it to the figure. So let's get these back together and see if we have to do any touch-ups. So we hook it back in, nice and simple. Everybody's happy. I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on the hull here. It clips in over the lights and then digs back in. It always goes on the lights easier. There we go, a nice snap in, and there is, well, a little bit of damage. Except it's not with the paint, the tab actually broke, so that'll happen. And it does kind of affect how this works. So there you go, there's a live break for you. And there's the tab itself. So now what we have to do, yeah, that's perfect. So unfortunately now, what I have to do is I have to secure that somehow. Could I re-glue the tab? Maybe. I mean, the answer is yes. The question is, will it provide the type of security that I'm looking for? And what we want is the proper seating of that hull on there. So I might run some super glue on that. The good news is I have time to figure that out. In fact, what I might even do, and a technique I've employed from time to time, is that I can glue the tab back on to the hull where it's actually supposed to go. So if I get my tweezers employed in there, I'll just glue it right back in there and basically lock it onto the hull. I'll never change this. I'm happy with the outcome, so I'm not worried about having to disassemble it again. The bonus with the wheels being broken, although they were lovingly repaired by somebody's dad, was that I could remove them from the hull, so I didn't need to worry about painting behind there. If that was the case for you, then as we know, right, the brushes come in, and that's when you get the paint put in behind the wheels. But in this case, I'm just going to carry on, and I can always fix that after. So as long as I put that off to the side, of course that was going to break because we're making the video. Next, I'm going to get the canvas on there. And that's the thing, right? Like, I'm not embarrassed. This doesn't bother me. If you're watching the video, we've talked about it. If you've watched any other videos on the channel, we've talked about this, where things will happen. The next pressure point is going to be the door here. Depending on the clear coat you use, automotive clear coats from a spray can are much stronger than hobby clear coats. However, because I'm working indoors, although the weather is getting nicer, I'll be moving back outdoors. In this case, this is another severe friction point where I might either A, crack the door, or B, get some severe paint removal here. So let's see what happens. Just nice, gentle pressure, and there we go. And that's actually quite decent. There's no visible paint damage. Again, with a loss of functionality, you may experience that. The same thing happens when you customize figures, is the understanding that once you do this, if you want to put a figure in it, maybe put the figure in first and then close the door. But just understand that if you're going to move these parts a lot, that you will be, you know, do what you want, obviously, but you may be committed to paint reapplication. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I want to keep the door in place. And I've got the door properly seated back here on the, whatever you want to call it, the opening side. And I'm just going to gently push. Gently, but firmly. There we go. Might be a little bit of paint touch up there on the blue part, but other than that, we are good to go. So now we got the canvas piece on. Next one, remember that the turret is keyed, so it has a little notch in it. Sorry, let's get that in focus there. There's a little notch there to go into that slot like that. So lining that up. Of course, that's going to take forever because I'm not going to stop recording. There we go. And just gently turn it around so it's in situ, and that's what happens when you lose the tab, right? It's what holds the whole thing together. In fact, that's actually kind of a bonus. I don't have to touch up the back here because the front broke, which is also good because I need to put on the lights. Some of you might have caught that already, in which case maybe that's why the universe broke the tab for me. Anyway, and the next thing is reattaching the rocket launcher. And some examples I've seen them with these lines up, and others I've seen them with the lines down. I like this part better. I don't know why for me, I wouldn't want to hide that. That's some nice detail in there. It provides more visual interest than this other bit. So let's get that applied. And this is a matter of hooking it in to one side, gently bending both sides to a minimum distance, and sliding it on. And I don't think we have to do any paint repair there either. So yeah, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably, seeing how easily this now comes off, I'm going to fix that front tab there and glue that in place. Nothing magical, just some super glue and some brute force and ignorance. So give me 2 seconds and we'll get that sorted. And there we go. I just needed to use some body English. I absolutely wanted to show you how I did it. So When you're working with finicky parts, either a X-Acto knife or a non-pointy tool will work, and that's just to manipulate the part itself. Something I learned during model building, and right now it's already curing, which is fantastic. I use that Rapid Set super glue. This is Gorilla super glue, by the way, nothing hobby based, easily found at a hardware store. And now what I'm going to do is I'll apply some of the light tan paint there to help it blend in. And now I'm committed. So now I'm just holding it there while we're talking about it. So bear with me here. And like I said, I like doing if you haven't seen the earlier videos, I like doing the warts and all approach as much as I can. If something happens off camera while I'm working on the project, I'll do my best to share it with you. And because it's one of those things, right? It's the, wow, how did they do that? And I'm trying to show you how we do it, how one way to do it is. But nothing ever goes perfectly, right? You know, things break, things snap, colors don't blend together, whatever. But I wanted you to see that because it still happens to me. Sometimes it's a train wreck. If you doubt me, go watch the Firebat videos. So, all right, let's get on to some stickers here. Two things with stickers. You can either mimic the original vehicle's layout, or you can go with something completely different. Those are the two basic options you have if you're looking for somewhere to start and you're not sure what. A custom, as you've seen, is a blank slate, and I found that by narrowing it down to those two options, that it makes things a lot easier to pick a starting point. With the understanding that you can change your mind. Putting the sticker on doesn't mean that it's cemented there. You're not gluing it on. Are you at risk for some paint damage? Potentially, but not always. So let's carry on. In this case, in my hemming and hawing, I'm going to do a bit of a combo. So I'm going to mimic the Vamp Mark II layout with the stickers I have. I have a mix of stickers here from Team and Icon sets and whatever this is here, a Radar Rat series, all from Toy Hacks, and with a little bit of flex on there to add some stars as part of the Steel Brigade aesthetic. So as usual, we will pick our X-Acto knife and our pliers and get these on. Yeah, screw it. Let's just go with the X-Acto knife. So with the Vamp, it usually has a little serial number here. It has the G.I. Joe logo up here. There's a flag back here, and then the Vamp or whatever logo, funky design up here. Right now, I don't have any country stickers to put up here, so the front might look a little bare. But we'll see if I can find something else and maybe adapt or whatever. Don't, with all of these things, right, you're not beholden to any one set of rules. You can make up whatever you want, like imagination's the limit. This is the way that I like to do it, just because to tie in. I find that some things make it blend in with the rest of the line and other things don't. And I'm just sharing that with you. So let's get the Steel Brigade logo on there right off the bat. So I'm just flicking up the edge, picking it off with my knife here. My thumb's on the blade on the non-sticky part, and there it is. And we got a landmark as per usual, so let's see if there's anything. There's a blemish I want to cover up. The other side is fine, so this is the governing side of where the sticker's going to go. And you know what? I like it right there. And you know what else? I can't see a landmark. I love it. I love it when it gets exciting. We're going to make this one American too. We're going to make this one American. I've certainly gotten some great vehicles and great help with parts to complete vehicles from my American friends down in the south, so thank you for that. Let's get a nice American flag right here. There we go. Look at that. Already starting to come to life. You only got 2 stickers on it. I love it. I love it. And it is funny, speaking about stickers and stuff, when I do my customs, a lot of the times I think the G.I. Joe symbol or logo, whatever you want to call it, always goes in the back. But in this case, when I looked at it, it actually doesn't, which is nice because it kind of frees you up. And it's interesting, some of the things that you notice or focus on when you're trying to establish patterns for things. So I thought that was kind of cool. And here we go. Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to go with the original is I created a backstory for this if it was being sold as a toy, not the vehicle itself per se. And what it was very much in line with the mail-away vamp, in that, you know, if you collected so many flag points, blah, 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 and sent a check away to Rhode Island or wherever, you, 4 to 6 weeks later, you got a Steel Brigade Jeep in the mail. And the one thing I noticed is that this color that I picked for the tan is extremely close to the original mail-away vamp. So it actually inspired me for another custom, which I think is always great, always great. When you're working on one project and it gives you an idea for another, and they just build off each other, I love that. I absolutely love it. Good spot. Yeah. Needs to come back a little bit. Needs to come back a little bit. Today it's going to fight me, and that's fine. I don't mind. It's always these dull moments, right? When I'm not saying anything or rambling on. Oh, yeah, it's going to fight me the whole way. And that's okay. Sometimes stickers have to go in, it may not seem like an awkward place, but yeah. Expect the unexpected. That's what I'll say. Expect the unexpected. I think it's good there. And it's funny too, because now, I mean, I'm sure you've bought vehicles on eBay where the stickers are upside down and all sorts of fun stuff like that. It kind of gives it character, I guess. And then the stage in life we are now, we're sitting here making sure that every millimeter matches up so that it looks perfect. It's kind of funny. And let's get the last sticker on the door. So I like doing this. It almost looks like Starduster, actually, the Starduster figure. If you're unfamiliar with the Starduster figure, check it out. It involves cereal and blue pants and whatever. Anyway, I don't know why. Can't remember why anyway. But I just have to have a star right there. Oh, that looks good. I like that. So there you go. There's the one side done for now. I have a couple of warning symbols and stuff like that to put on there, but baseline, there we go. So other side, let's get this on. I hope all your projects are going excellently, by the way. And if they're proven to be a little bit difficult, then just, like I try and always remind you, is just take a step back, right? I need to remind myself to take a step back too. Sometimes I get frustrated and I just want to fight through, or I want to finish the project because I'm done with it, and it's like, just take a step back. Take that extra second or two and just, or walk away for a couple of days. I've certainly done that before. There we go. Why didn't you go on the other? Ugh, see how he's going on? Jeez. Anyway. Yeah, and because there's definitely been projects where I wanted to pull my hair out. But there's no rush. There's no deadline either. And if you do happen to start doing this for commission or something like that, then explain that to the client before you start. It's like, hey, things happen. And if the project proves to be frustrating, I might have to take a small break. Most people are very accommodating with that. If they're not, well, I don't know what to tell you. So it's not only good, but it's good enough. The American flag here on the back. Like that. Let's get the star on the door. Actually, I have one more partial sticker sheet. It gets interesting, right? Because eventually it's like, do you throw out stickers? Well, you try not to. But eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to have a sticker that serves no function, and it's going to be like one sticker left on the sheet. What do I do with this? Just kind of carry on or throw it out. Who knows? Your choice. Okay, not the last sticker yet. Not yet. The top is a little empty here. And we certainly don't want a dragonfly or the tiger rat lighting this guy up, because you can't tell if he's friendly or not. So we are going to do a little bit of this. The vamp door, if you've never seen, or roof, excuse me, if you've never seen it up close, has this raised rectangle on the top beside the hatch, basically to imply, or beside the flap, basically to imply that this does the same thing. Unfortunately, what that does in return is limit the size of sticker you can put in there. Just because it stands proud of the rest of the surface. It's already got a rough texture, and it can unfortunately limit your options. And in contemplating putting a Steel Brigade logo up here, the only ones I have left are either so small that it wouldn't fill the space nicely, or it was just too big. And I figure I could save that for a future project. So there we go. And I don't think I have the country stickers I need for the front, in which case that's fine. So here we go. We'll do the spinny table thing, of course, but yeah, we got some stickers up top, we got stickers on the side. We'll get a sticker on the front eventually. The gas cans are missing. When I do, I'll probably paint them black. And the steel for the Steel Brigade is on the wheel hubs, because if you notice, it basically works out to the same ratio of color. And there you have it. So we've kind of done two things here at once. We've taken the colors of a figure and we have applied them to a vehicle. We've also given what could be considered a team that never got any vehicles its very first vehicle. In my case, its second vehicle. So what do we have to think about? Well, like I said at the beginning of the episode, it's color balance, it's color volume. This is where the pre-visualization pays off big time. I know I don't show you them much anymore, just showing you that it exists and that it does happen. But in this case, play around with it. You saw a couple of different versions of what I was thinking about. And hey, try something bold. Does that work? No. If not, okay, how does it work? And this is the formula I came up with. And I love it. I think it's great. It also goes well with my Steel Brigade Skyhawk, which I made. Same colors. If you were expecting something that was all metal, well, there might be a Steel Brigade version 2 in the future, but right now this is the way I view Steel Brigade vehicles. You may view it differently. Lots of fun. And again, bringing up that note where this color is almost close to the Steel Brigade, or the Mail Away Vamp, we'll be having a discussion about that coming up in the future as well. So again, I hope all your projects are going really good. Let's do the spinny table thing. Thanks to all my subscribers, and if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. And in the meantime, be safe and have fun.